Good afternoon, coming to you from a very squinty sunny day. I was having a conversation with my friend earlier and thought I'd do a bit of a brain dump, a recap for the camera. So we were talking about the developing countries and pollution and climate change, and it gets a bit hairy, the subject of climate change, because there are quite a few opinions out there and a lot of misinformation, and a lot of people in popular culture would tend to believe that the information is on the side of the conspiracists, where people are denying climate change and things like that, and that 97% of scientists are in agreement over the climate and what's causing it and whatnot. And there's a very interesting interview between Bill Nye and I can't remember the guy's name right now, but he's interesting to listen to. Anyway, Bill Nye, if you haven't seen it, was talking about how humans are contributing to climate change, and the question that kept being thrown at him was, well, if humans are contributing to climate change, to what extent are they contributing? And I've done a little bit of research, I've heard some things from other people, but supposedly out of the CO2 that's been put into our atmosphere, only 3% is due to human contribution, which is actually a pretty small amount if you think about it. I mean, it's still a lot of CO2, but in the scheme of things it's actually not making as nearly as much difference as we're told to believe in the mainstream. But regardless of this idea of sea levels rising and the planet increasing its temperature, at least in certain parts of the world, because they've obviously had to ditch the name global warming in lieu for climate change, because global warming didn't accurately represent this idea that the whole planet is just universally heating up like an oven. So we have climate change, and there's plenty of evidence for the climate changing and weather patterns and temperatures. But it's not just climate change that we need to be worried about and conscious of when we are looking to maintain our world and to create a new society, a better society, because we have pollution. We have pollution of the land, we have pollution of the ocean, we have pollution of the sky. And obviously we need a breathable atmosphere, we need drinkable water, we need sea life. The sea is a very important part of the ecosystem, and it kind of goes without saying, we shouldn't be dumping all this crap into the ocean, we shouldn't be destroying the one planet we've got, the one piece of land. So but it's a tricky one, not just in the Western world, but especially in developing countries. And the Western world is meant to, we Westerners are meant to have a larger individual footprint than someone in the developing country, which makes a lot of sense. But at the same time, we do tend to have better infrastructure for dealing with recycling, with rubbish disposal and things like that. So in the poorer countries especially, and everyone seems to be guilty of this to some extent, but especially in the poorer countries and places where people aren't as educated, when people aren't as conscious in their personal lives of rubbish disposal and pollution and recycling and how that impacts them and their individual responsibility. A lot of people in the world simply don't care. They don't have the time and energy in their lives. They don't see firsthand necessarily what this kind of pollution is doing especially in the long run. And so, I mean, one of the most powerful ideas to change not just pollution and the individual approach to rubbish disposal and resource use. I forgot what I was saying there for a second. One of the most potent ideas is education and cultural development, and sort of an awakening. Ideally everyone in the world would be more aware of what they're doing, what they're using, but there are a couple of problems there. First of all, educating the entire world, and which in theory impacts their morality and their willingness to be more conscious and be more active in preserving the environment. It's a long-term plan, that could take multiple generations to implement, and even after 50, 100 years, which is far too long, there's still no guarantee that the people around the world will be in a place in their personal lives to be able to do that. And secondly, the people are only as good as the system they've got. They're only as good as the tools they've got. And when it comes to using products, buying products that have certain kinds of packaging, or even for a business owner who will be using what is available, what is cost effective, there are limitations. There are certain things within reach, certain systems and products that are available. So one example might be a guy on the street selling hot dogs, and he likes selling hot dogs. That's not going to change. But on the street, how are people going to eat hot dogs? A hot dog, maybe they're greasy and hot, whatever. So he sells them with a plastic wrapper, or a plastic lined wrapper. You have to excuse me, I'm getting a little sweaty here. But so why does he do that? That plastic wrapper, it gets used, people eat their hot dogs, they throw the wrapper away. And even if there are bins around, so let's start off, firstly, are there bins around? Is someone in a place in their lives where they can dispose of this waste responsibly, in a way where in turn that rubbish bin that they've put it into is going to be used responsibly, is going to be disposed of or recycled responsibly? And a lot of the time we see, even if we the individual do the responsible right thing that we're meant to do, the products that we think we're recycling are actually not being recycled at all. They're just being put into landfill, or even worse, sometimes is they're being burned. They're being sent to countries in Asia where they're just burnt and they're going into the atmosphere. So firstly, that's that's on industry. That's on not just industry either, but government and the way the society is set up, because the people and the businesses are both tied by legislation, by what's available to them. But so you need to make it intuitive for people. You need to make it easy, because especially for the person who doesn't care, or who doesn't think, or has limited time, limited energy, how are we going to make it easy for people to do the right thing? How do we make it a thoughtless, automatic process? I think that's really the question. And even I was reading up about road safety a while back, and while I can't remember all the details, the goal was to reduce car accidents, traffic accidents, reduce deaths from traffic accidents. And there are several different ways you can approach it, and I can't remember all of them right now, to be honest, but there were things like behavioral changes and legal changes where people are bound by law to wear their seatbelt, and so if they get into a crash, they have a higher chance of survival. And there will be other ways, like things that in product design, where installing airbags or better brakes, better tires is going to help prevent a crash in the first place. There are preventative measures, and there are also things that people don't even have to, people don't have to think about, people don't have to use. For example, building better roads. You have better roads, it's likely that is going to reduce the chance of a car crash. So applying this to pollution, we want to, again, make it intuitive, make it easy, make it automatic for the individual to be doing the right thing. What we could say is the ethical thing to do, but doing it practically. People are practical creatures, people are efficient creatures. So yeah, there are a few things that we need to do in that regard.